All right, so I would like to get to know you guys a little bit better first, and all of you out there virtually as well. So if I'm going to ask a few questions, and if you could just raise your hands to kind of show me, I can see mostly in the dark there. Okay, so the first question is, how many of you were once children? Excellent. I'm so glad. Hold on, sir. I think someone's not raising their hand. Um, no, it sounds like a silly question, but I want to recognize that no matter what our situation is right now, in terms of how much we're interacting with children, we all have that personal experience, right? That we can draw upon, and that is very valuable. All right, next question. How many of you are caring for children in some capacity right now? Children of your own, grandchildren, friends' children? If you could just raise your hand. Anyone? Couple. How many folks are teaching children regularly? This could be homeschooling or in a volunteer capacity or as a professional educator. Any teachers out there? Yes, one. And then the last question is, how many of you would like to actually help develop like programs for kids or be involved in teaching kids about native plants and habitats? I know. Okay, I like those. I like the hands. Don't worry, you don't, I will not hold you to this. All right, well, thank you. That was very helpful. Just to get a better sense of like what our collective experience is. During this presentation, I'm hopeful that a lot of the things that I say, I will see you nodding your head or smiling because you'll be like, yes, I found that to be true too. Bill's saying no. Or yeah, that matches my experience. And maybe I'm hopeful too that there might be some moments when you're like, I never thought about it that way. Or Bill is saying, darn, no, that is not right, Betsy. I'm gonna know. But whatever it be, I'm hopeful that you will be able to walk away with something new, a different insight or perspective that you didn't have coming in here. And this talk is going to focus on big picture ideas and concepts for what we want to focus on in educating children. But if you are involved in something and you have a very specific question about a teaching technique or program management, or you want to get into the weeds, I'm totally happy. So please keep your questions. And I'd love to talk about those afterwards. And for that matter, if you have any ideas during the presentation or some questions, please jot them down if, so you don't forget them, because I would love to learn from you all too. And I would love to hear your ideas. All right. As Avon mentioned, I am a lifelong native plant enthusiast. And uh-oh, I moved forward on this one, but not on the one there. Okay, let's see if I can do this right now. There we go. So just to give you a little bit about me, I did grow up in Fort Worth, and I spent a fair amount of time as a child in my backyard, in my sandbox, playing with roly-polies and making, pools and waters and things like that, in my garden with my father, growing things in state parks. And this is one of them you see up there with the ladybug shirt on. That's me pulling out some giant fish carcass. Not afraid, right? Pulling it out from under the shrub to go hold mom. And she said, wait, stand right there, right? Well, she went to go get the camera. Um, but I attribute lots of my love and my passion for the environment, for native plants and habitats to those experiences. Oh, and also the creek in the bottom, the kind of muddy, murky creek where the cottonmouths lived, in the golf course that was by my house. But that was a wonderful place to be as well. So now I live in Grapevine, and I am fortunate to be married to a wonderful man and have three fabulous kids who have spent much of their life growing up with me gardening. It's one of my favorite things to do with them. And there they are a few years back. And I love to garden. That's my front yard side garden from a few years ago. And I really enjoy spending time outside with kids. In my professional life, I have worn lots of different hats and work to protect and restore native plants and habitats, both here in Texas and in various countries in Latin America. I am somebody who has a great passion, though, for working with children, particularly playing with children. All right. So right now, in my current capacity for Tarrant Regional Water District, I create and coordinate all sorts of different programs. And these programs are focused on helping kids appreciate the value of water, right? And supporting all life and recognizing the journey that water takes to reach our faucets, the challenges that we face, that water faces, and then ultimately helping them understand how they can help to save and protect water as well. We have lots of different types of programs for schools and homeschools and after school programs. We support youth events, family events, spring summer camps, and we have a garden grant as well. And if you're interested in learning any more about any of these programs, please visit savetarrantwater.com. That is where we have lots of fabulous programs, but you can go to youth programs and learn more about these things. So just to give you a little bit of background about TRWD, we are the raw water supplier for Tarrant County. So we provide water to Tarrant County and 10 other counties in north central Texas. And we deliver this water supply. We also reduce flood risks along the Trinity River, maintaining the levees, and we have lots of trails and recreation spaces around our reservoirs as well. So TRWD pulls water from these 4 reservoirs. So the top 2, Richland Chambers and Cedar Creek, they are in East Texas. And then, of course, Eagle Mountain Lake and Lake Bridgeport in North Texas. And our service area is quite large, 2.4 million people. Most of our residents, though, live in Tarrant County. So you can see we maintain and own and operate the reservoirs and all of the infrastructure, the pipelines to deliver that water, move it into the places where people need it. And then we sell that water to our customer cities, and our primary customer is the city of Fort Worth, and also Arlington and Mansfield and the Trinity River Authority. And then they treat the water and deliver it to all their residents, or in some cases, sell it to other smaller cities as well. So that's kind of just some background information for you. So let's talk about Tarrant County and the population we serve. So this is from the 2022 Texas State Water Plan. You can go on the Texas Water Development Board's website, and they have an interactive plan, and you can pull this data and tons of other data. It's really interesting. So I pulled this for Tarrant County in Region C. That's a water planning region that we are part of. And you can see here the population in the next 50 years is going to be growing dramatically, right? And if you live in Fort Worth or near, you know that the population here is increasing dramatically. Like Fort Worth is leading the nation in raw population growth, right? About 50 new people a day are moving here. So obviously that has big implications for water, right? Because all the people that are moving here need water just like we do. So in our service area, the larger area, that encompasses also outside of Tarrant County, the population right now is about 2.4 and is expected to double within the next 50 years. So this is also from the state water plan, the interactive water plan. I just pulled it up. This is for Tarrant County, and you can see the purple is our water demand, and the blue is our existing supplies. So the chart tells a clear picture, right? And then the red and green, right? Where are the shortages? That's the scary part. And then the strategy supplies to meet those needs right next to it. And that's part of TRWD's job, right? Is to plan 50 years out and so we have all these different strategies, and you can go on our website and learn more about them, or we can talk with you. Dustin Compton is here and Heather Bass from TRWD, and they would be happy to talk about those options too if you're interested afterwards. All right, so it's clear that population growth is a big factor, right, in the job that we do and how we need to plan ahead. Weather is the other. So drought is a regular part of our climate here in Texas. We experience moderate droughts every 3 to 4 years. But more recently, too, we've all started to experience, and I think everybody's started to acknowledge, these really sustained high temperatures, right? I've never known a summer like the last one. And if you think about it, all of our water supply is coming from surface waters, which are subject to evaporation, right? So that is another factor that is making our water supply even more uncertain. And we never know, too, with the changes that are happening in our climate, when is the next drought happening and how long will that one last, right? So if you combine together thinking about thinking about population growth and thinking about droughts and thinking about climate change, it makes it imperative that we are focusing on conservation as a water supply strategy. And so TRWD has many robust programs focused on conservation, educating the residents in our customer cities about what they can do to reduce water use in their homes and around their homes. So these are some of our plans. We have adult education classes. You can sign up and get a free sprinkler evaluation. A licensed irrigator will come out and evaluate your irrigation system. We have professional landscape consultations. You can sign up for free weekly watering advice that's customized to your area to know, like it is based on rainfall. How much do you actually need to water and what are we talking about? We're talking about watering turf, right? And so there's lots of classes. We have a newsletter, we have a blog. Heather works on all those fabulous things. So lots of efforts that we make to help educate. Now you might notice most of these are focused on outdoor watering. And why? Because that represents the area where we can make the biggest gains. Because for single family residences, think about in 1 year, 40% or more of their total water use is spent on outdoor watering. So this is the biggest. And what are we talking about? Watering what? Turf, right? And turf is the landscape feature, the predominant landscape feature, right? In most residential landscaping. And turf is thirsty. And this underlines, I think, why I'm here at the Native Plant Society meeting, right? And why TRWD champions your efforts to promote native plants and habitats. Because in addition to all the wonderful benefits that native plants offer for wildlife and for our healthy ecosystems and our quality of life, native plants also offer the best option for sustainable landscaping that conserves our water resources. So, okay, I thought you were talking about kids, Betsy. You've totally gotten off. Yes, so let's go back. Why teach kids to value water and native plants and habitats? Well, you might be like, okay, Betsy, because you just talked about turf and outdoor watering, and what do kids have to do with that? Because they're not making those decisions for the most part, about the landscaping around their yard or how much irrigation is happening by and large. And you're right, but that's just not the whole picture at all. So we can't forget that young people, so say think of 18 and under, make up 30% of the population. And they are water users too, right? So their efforts to conserve water indoors are not insignificant, right? And their efforts to potentially invite their parents to to take them to a park where there is native habitats, right, are not insignificant. And their efforts to say, hey, mama, can we plant this butterfly plant that happens to be a native Texas plant, right, are not insignificant. So those things need to be considered. Also, in addition to that, lots of research points that children are more willing than adults to consider new ideas, new perspectives, and adopt them. You guys are like, yes, yes, we know this. They are more open-minded. So that is another reason to focus on children. And studies show too that children, but particularly teenagers, are capable of influencing their parents' environmental attitudes and behaviors. And that should also not be dismissed. And then lastly, in 10 to 20 years, of course, these children right now are going to be the ones who are making decisions in their households about how water is used, about what sort of landscaping is around their home. And that's going to be at a time when our water resources are even more strained than they are now, right? So in that time frame, these children then will become the taxpayers. They will become the business owners. They will become the voters who are going to make decisions about city policies, watering ordinances, developments, green spaces, right? And that's just around the corner. So for these same reasons, the Native Plant Society also recognizes that it's very important to educate children. And there are some great resources on the Native Plant Society's webpage. I just recently saw it. I think some of them have only been up for a couple months, focusing on teaching children in schools about native plants. So I was really excited to see that. So in addition to the fact that in addition to the fact that native plants and habitats and water resources need children, kids need nature too. Nature deficit is real. Many of you probably heard of this idea of nature deficit disorder. What is it? It's just this evidence from all these different surveys and studies that show that children's connection to nature is decreasing. Why? They're trying to figure this out. But the large part of it is they spend less time outdoors, significantly less time outdoors, and more time indoors in sedentary activities. And that parents, there's a lot of reasons why, but some of it is because parents they have concerns about safety, or they prefer the convenience of having their child be at home or be in a structured club activity or a class, right? Than having just free, unstructured outdoor time. And this has real implications for children's health. Because limited exposure to nature has been linked to obesity. It doesn't, that's like the most obvious thing ever. You're sitting, you're not moving, right? How does that affect your metabolism? How does that affect how many calories you're using? It's been linked to attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. It's been linked to anxiety and depression in children. So it's real and it's harmful, and we need to think about it. And let's now, on the brighter side, take it on the flip side. This is something we can relate to. Regular contact with nature provides immense benefits. And this is seen in children and in adults, right? In lots of different studies. So what are we talking about? Regular contact with nature reduces stress, improves your mood, increases your overall emotional well-being, right? Strengthens, I love these things that I looked up, increases our attention, strengthens our memories, enhances our cognitive functioning. So apparently this is a very smart group of people that's here tonight, right? Because I know you guys do spend a lot of time outdoors. So educating children about native plants and habitats and our water resources is not only important for our ecosystems, right, and our community, but it's important for children's health as well. Okay, so we've laid the groundwork for why, right? Let's dive back into the how. And it looks like another slide is hidden. This is like mystery. Okay, hold with me. Oh yeah, that slide was hidden too. Man, you guys are missing out. Okay, here we go. No, that one's not even hidden. Why is this not? Amberly, can you come here for a sec? What I'm thinking is happening is that this version here is not this version here, but I don't know why this is not showing. So this is, oh, which slide are we trying? Oh, you know what? That's the issue. Yep. Okay, let's see. Yes. Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Sorry. Yes. I love tech helpers. So, so we just talked about how regular contact with nature has all these health benefits, right? Let's now go back to our question. How do we inspire then children to love native plants and habitats? And this is the focus of the talk. And I want to draw your special attention to this word I chose, love. Why did I put love in there? Exactly. We protect what we love. And we know this, a lot of us intrinsically, but we've also probably learned this in our life experiences as well. But there is lots of other, studies out there to say, is this really true? Yes. People who have strong emotional connections to nature are much more likely to have strong environmental values and to engage in protecting the environment. They call it pro-environmental behaviors. That's the thing. And there's just ample evidence of this, right? People protect what they love. And those emotional experiences also play a crucial role in developing and establishing our values. When you think about it, what you feel informs what you think is good or bad, is right or wrong, right? So children who have positive experiences, emotional connections in nature, who like feelings of happiness or peacefulness or wonder or curiosity, those emotions serve to help shape the values they have because they begin to value nature. And those are the two primary motivators. When we're talking about protecting native plants and habitats, it is emotional connection, right? And it is their value system. Like if looking across at the research for like what motivates pro-environmental behaviors, this is what you will find. So this is why I wrote in there to how do we inspire them to love native plants and habitats? And how do we do this? We create ways for children to connect emotionally and to value nature. So I have some specific, there's lots of different techniques and lots of different ways, but I picked out 4 that I thought would be helpful for us moving forward. 1, teach by example. Create a positive emotional bond. There is a lot of research out there, and I know this from practical experience. I tell you this when I'm mentioning about studies and research because I want you to know it's not just me, but this is my personal experience as well. Like this is what when I sat down and was like, okay, this is what I want to tell people. But then I was like, is this really true? And so, yes, other people have found this to be true as well. So as somebody who's teaching, you want to create a positive emotional bond with kids. You want to let them know that you care about them, that you think they're important. Many of you may have heard of this quote before. Kids don't care what you know until they know that you care. And I have found it to be very true in my practice as well. So letting kids know that you care about them sometimes is the opening, it opens all the doors. I have walked into environments where they have been openly hostile because of various socioeconomic factors. And I have walked out those doors with kids hugging me. Why? Because they knew I cared about them. And that was clear through my words and through my actions. And so this is a way to teach how can you be a positive role model? First, you have to establish a positive emotional bond. Now, I put some funny pictures up here like that. On the top, the person in the bathrobe, that's one of our educators. And she is fabulously goofy and was at an event, like a STEM-a-ween event, right? Talking about water. But she instantly connected with the kids because why? She was playing with them. She was all dressed out, right? Like she was taking a shower. And so kids pick up on that quickly, right? If you're on their wavelength. Teach by example to be a positive role model. Model your values, communicate through your actions that you think this place, these plants, this habitat, these waters are important, right? And it's not like you have to talk about it. It's just by what you do, right? It's by noticing, oh, there's a piece of litter and you pick it up and it's not even a big deal, but the child notices that you did that, right? It's about not stepping on the earthworm or the bug that's on the thing. It's about moving them out of the way. It's about stopping the lesson because there happened to be this amazing insect on you, right? Or you happen to see something, a beautiful plant, and you're like, oh my gosh, and you show that enthusiasm and you model it right there for the kids, right? It doesn't matter what this lesson was, forget that. Teach to the moment, right? Show them that be a positive role model. These two, this is a teacher up in most of these pictures, almost all of these pictures are from our experiences, my experiences working for TRWD, but a couple of them I thrown in are from my family. So the woman in the bottom who's holding the big katydid, that's my mom. Right. And so I took this picture like last summer, but this is my mom ever since I was this little, right? Like, oh, look at this moth, right? Look at this, whatever. And I'm the same way right now with your kids. So I hope that if you've had a positive role model in your life, you can relate to this as well. And that other picture at the top, that is my middle son. And he is stopping to smell a chocolate daisy by our front door when he was little. Why? Because that's always what mama does. right? Every single time I walked out the door, I would stop. I saw the blossoms. You know, they smell the best in the morning. And so I'd smell those chocolate daisies until I noticed that he was doing the exact same thing. So it really matters. Be a positive role model. Next, create sensory learning experiences. This is the hands-on part. This is the experiential part. Um, why? Because one, sensory experiences create emotion. And we just talked about how we want to promote an emotional connection. And two, sensory experiences are remembered. So think about it. There's two different things. One, everything you see, you hear, you feel, you taste, that all provides a rich input to your brain. It activates different parts of your brain. So the more parts of your brain that are involved in processing what you're experiencing means there's more neural pathways, more information that's being coded and remembered. And it goes actually into your long-term memory, which is why when people say like, oh, I smell something. Oh, that reminds me of, something from 30 years ago, right? That's what we're talking about. And the other thing is that sensory experiences more fully capture your learner's attention. And so because they're more interesting and they're physically more involved, they're mentally more involved. And the more involved they are, the more parts of their brain are focused on what they are experiencing. And the more parts of their brain that are focused on that, the more memory and input there is. So it works together. This is really important. And I have seen this in practice because I've been, teaching for a long time, but particularly at TRWD, we've been doing after school programs at some of these centers now for almost 4 years. And so I noticed right away, we'd go back and the very next month, say I'd go back, the kids would say, oh yeah, I remember you. Your name is Betsy and you work for the water district. And we did this last month. Like, what? And I'm like, this is kind of weird, right? But now we go back now and we've been there a couple years and the kids, they know all the answers to the questions. And I may only see them like once every 6 months or something, but they remember. And the teachers and the parents often after our programs will contact me specifically and say, the kids were talking about that lesson all day. And I've had parents just randomly that I've interacted with, oh yeah, my child participated in that. They came home and talked about it, which coincidentally is another reason to do sensory experiences because you want that intergenerational transfer of knowledge to the parents. And if the more sensory experiences they are, the more likely they are to talk about them with their parents. So on lots of different levels, very important. How? Take the kids outside. If it's hot, put up, go at a different time of day. Go in the morning, go at night, put up a shade tent, right? Outside is all their the sensory experience is heightened. Let the kids get dirty. Let them feel the wet mud between their toes, right? Let them feel the pokey leaves. Let them crush it. Let them feel the hairy pubescence on the leaf, right? Let them smell the things. Use all their senses. Play games. Let them run and sprint and spin and crouch down. All of those crazy things will also stimulate their vestibular their balance system, their nervous system. And that will help them also to remain more calm afterwards and have more focused attention, which is sometimes we very much need, right? Those moments of calmness too. So sensory experiences are the way to go. And don't be fooled into thinking sensory experiences all have to be high energy. Many sensory experiences are simply by sitting and being, right? And children have a moment to, like we all do, to just actually feel the wind on our skin and to listen, right? So sensory experiences do not have to mean chaos. Don't put the two together. But think about what makes sense for your age group. What sort of games, right? What sort of activities would be fun for them? Now, creating opportunities for positive emotional experiences, that's just a fancy way to say have fun, right? Kids want to have fun. They want to play with them, right? A lot of sensory experiences are going to create those fun experiences, those fun moments. You see those kids up in the top? They are jumping like local native frogs. They learn about them, they see them, and they go out and they try to jump as far as, and we talk about how far will the Gulf Coast toad jump? Oh yeah, you got that, no problem. How far will the leopard frog jump? Oh, almost, you pretty much got that. How far will the green tree frog jump? Oh no, so you did not make that at all. Right, so they have a blast though. And they remember. They remember these things. And they say, this was really funny, at a homeschool event last week, there was like 50 kids there. And one of our educators came over to me and said, Betsy, did you hear what that child said to his parents? I said, no. She said, he went over and said, well, Mom, I didn't expect to have this much fun. It's totally great. Loved it. And then I included this picture here at the bottom because, again, consider unstructured playtime. Many people think that introducing kids to be, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to supervise them. It's going to be exhausting, right? They're going to run around. They're going to get into trouble. They're going to have, it does not. I have to develop all this lesson plan. I have to, no, you don't. There's a lot, so much learning happens in unstructured free playtime, right? And so it's just about creating a place for them to be safe and for you to step back, because that learning is going to happen mostly when adults are not present, right? And of course, that works best if you have children who meet regularly, who know each other, right? They need to have some relationships, but unstructured free time just to be is very valuable. All right. And the last one I want to focus on is to foster a sense of belonging and stewardship. Help children realize that they are important and that they are needed, that they have a role and they are capable of helping. This is so very important. It fills an emotional need we all have, not only to be loved, but to love, right? To care for things. And so the children that I have that I've worked with respond super positively. Some of them have never been given a shovel. Oh, kills me. Some of them have never been given because they weren't trusted, right? Because nobody of trust thought that, oh, we can actually, I've had still teachers tell me, I don't know if I can maybe just give them these little plates. I said, we're not going to be able to prune the plant with those scissors. Sorry. I've got to give them. And you know what? They respond because they want the responsibility. They want to be capable, right? It's about trusting them. And they're so happy to be able to help. The picture at the top, that's a group of, this is slightly a little bit higher than our normal age group. Those kids were probably like 18, 19, 20. Those are college kids, but I included them anyway because they're students still. They're at UTA, and this is at the Lake Arlington Garden. They just recently adopted that bed out at the Lake Arlington Native Plant and Pollinator Garden. And they are so excited. They've already sent all these dates for commitment. And I was out there about 3 or 4 times with them, and they kept showing up. And why? It wasn't about me. No, it was about recognizing that this place needed them. And it was about belonging to that group, right? They had a community of friends who cared about this. So, and these students here at the bottom, they are a part of a garden club at an elementary school where we have helped to build a native plant garden. And they show up and they showed up with their parents, by the way, another intergenerational, and they were there working, but they were with their friends, right? And it was like, oh, this is important. I belong here. The garden needs me and my friends need me, and I'm part of something important. And this helps to establish that emotional connection, and the relationships with the peers and the teachers help to establish those values that we talked about too. So if you're interested in TRWD and our efforts, please go online to savetarrantwater.com and sign up for our newsletter. We always post upcoming events, classes. I'll put pictures of our youth highlights there too. So I would encourage you guys to sign up if you're interested. And I wanted to take you back with this picture. Do you remember in the very first picture of the title slide, there was a little boy who was peering under the branches? Okay, so that's Mason, and this is Mason in the blue shirt. And what's he doing? He came to me last fall and said, Mom, he's the president of their environmental club in his high school. And he said, Mom, I want to fix up the courtyard beds. Like at the front of Colleyville Heritage High School, there are 3 beds that have been largely empty the entire time my children have been going there. And I've just been waiting for somebody to say something. And so he says, Mom, I think we need to go plant some native plants there. And I was like, yes. So it was his idea, because I knew I couldn't just come in. He had to take ownership over it. And he tried, and he got a local club grant from the local garden club there. And then the school took the money and said, we have to use our vendors. He's like, I can't buy the native plants I need at Lowe's. And so he invited TRWD at that point. He submitted a grant to see if we could support that project. But he led this. He recruited the guides. It was mostly cross-country people there who I was told had never planted a plant ever, but they showed up and he led this effort. And just flashback, right? He is that same boy who was peering under, who was looking at all of the plants, who's accompanied me everywhere, who goes out fishing, who goes out hiking by himself, and who right now is at a reception for A&M students to study conservation biology and environmental science. So it does matter. It doesn't always turn out that way. I just really lucked out, right? Because I know that no matter what your efforts, it doesn't always influence your children that way, but sometimes it does. So thank you very much for having me here tonight, and I would be happy to take any questions you have now. Yes, sir. Oh, yes. He said, does the Tarrant Regional Water District have any interest in promoting people collecting air conditioning condensate as a means to like recycle and use that water? And I'm going to defer back here. I'm seeing a little shrug. No, we don't know. Yes. I mean, the answer is yes. Would we be interested in efforts like that? I know I certainly would. I did a whole bunch of research and was very disappointed to find out all the restrictions that there are regarding that. But I do encourage you to talk to us more about that in the city of Fort Worth. Yeah, it has to do with bacteria that can collect in the water and how the water is used. So there's some plumbing restrictions on that, but very good question. Yes. Yes. So if you sign up for our newsletter, it will list out all the different classes that are happening in all with our customer cities throughout Tarrant County. And some of those classes are in person, but a large percentage of them are online. And Heather is the person who coordinates that. And so if you had some more questions about it or specific classes, I bet she could help you afterwards too. Absolutely. I love that. And I can relate to what you're talking about because we provide programs for students at River Legacy and Oliver Nature Center too. And a lot of those students are students who are homeschooled or participating in nature camps. And those are like the really precocious ones, right? That already know everything. So it's almost like, well, tell me about this, right? So thank you very much. I agree. And thank goodness for those children. You guys are my guinea pigs. So this is the first time I presented this particular program. So, oh, excuse me. She said, have I presented this program to any school PTAs? No, the answer is not yet. But I would love to be invited to present it again in a context with other educators too. That's very good. And okay, so the question is how to help children overcome fear of insects. You know, at first, when you were asking the question, I thought you were going to say, how do you deal with an innate fear of children? Insects is a lot easier to deal with. So in my practical experience, I simply recognize that it's okay to be fearful and there's a reason to be fearful, right? Because they've learned that. Usually they've learned it from parents or other people who have modeled that behavior, right? And so I've had many children too, when I'm like exclaiming how interesting something is or wanting to go see it, that they look at me like I'm nuts, right? Because that's the first time anybody's actually shown some appreciation for an insect. But in my experience, as far as I'll speak to the camera here for our Zoom audience, Joanne, I have simply one, recognized that their fear is real. And that two, they can stay back wherever they feel comfortable and safe because it's about creating a safe space, right? We want to make a positive emotional connection. So, letting that child sit way back at the back of the group then until they feel like, oh, there's no pressure on me. Oh, look, the other children are watching this insect safely. I think it's okay. I could get a little closer too. And that's been my experience as well. That they have gradually found confidence in themselves to be able to step forward. Yes. Yes, absolutely. And there's a healthy reason to be afraid of many insects, like stinging ones or venom, right? Venomous ones. So we want to teach that too, teach that respect. an understanding, appreciation for those features of those insects as well. Any other questions from our Zoomers? Yes, so have it be more kid directed, but still have some structure. And the amount of structure needed is really going to depend on the age of the students, right? The type of environment you're in, how much time you have available, right? The knowledge of your students, their level of comfort and safety in the place they are, that's all going to change, right? And so, and part of that is just trial experience, knowing, okay, I know with this group, I'm going to need to give a lot more structure. And part of it is also just like any good teacher differentiating these students I'm going to work with personally, right? Because they're not comfortable enough to be in this space, or maybe they can't focus long enough to be in this space, right? So some kids are going to need allow more time, and some kids are going to need a little bit more attention that way. But generally, I find it works well to one, quick get them engaged, do something really fun, right? And then give them a goal, something that we're looking for, something we're trying to solve, a mystery, something we're trying to identify or locate, something that they have to go out. And so then they have the freedom, say 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is, to go out and do that unstructured. And then, okay, everybody come back. And it also gives people who are particularly introverts or more introverted time to just be, right, away from the group. And they don't have to respond, and they don't have to talk to people for a minute, and that's helpful. And then pulling everybody back together and letting them share. And a lot of times what they share, yeah, it mostly relates to what you asked them to do, but there's a lot of other learning that went on too. Yes. Depends for what. She said, how big of a group do you think is optimal? Do you have something in mind? Like a particular? Mhm. Oh, that's lovely. Just 10 kids. 10 kids is lovely. 12, 12 kids is lovely. We're 15 is lovely. Why? Because there's more opportunity for individual attention that you can give the students, right? So you can engage them. Um, I usually so for that's about the size of a homeschool group. Or excuse me, not a homeschool group, an after school group. That's oftentimes in a 50. Is yours an after school program? Okay. Yes. Well, I think that would be optimal. I really enjoy working that with that level or that number of children. As far as working in a little bit larger groups, if you have the space to do it, our maximum generally is like 25, because we can still maintain their attention and keep them all occupied. We can bring enough supplies to keep them, supported, because you have to think about that too. If you have props or other things that you need that they're going to be engaged in. And space wise, you can make sure that they're supervised well and that you can maintain, a safe group. Now on a nature hike, which I'm sure, what was your name, sir? Charlie could talk some more about that. Smaller is better. Nature hikes are, you've got to really break them up into groups, right? So that you never hear, never see. Exactly. So having those little groups of 10 people is golden. Any other questions? Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you all tonight.